happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today I got a top 10 happy-ish love songs brought to us by friend and longtime supporter and patron of the channel, Becca. Thank you, Becca. Appreciate everything you do for us. Appreciate all the patrons. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. We do a lot of cool stuff for you, and we would not make it without the patron support. We put up videos every single day. I don't really have any background on this, right? It's kind of just self-explanatory. So just a quick upfront, the music won't be in the video, but it will be at a Vimeo link below. There is a ton of great music on this one and just all-time artists. We're going to start it off at number 10 with I Want to Know What Love Is from Foreigner from Agent Provocateur back in 1984. Yes, as a child of the 80s, I own this cassette. And yes, this is probably a song that I've heard. It's probably in the top 20 of songs I've heard as far as like how many times I've heard it. And I haven't heard it in a very long time on purpose. So I'm going to be interested to see what I think of this thing. It was just oversaturation on Max, and there's a reason why. So the lead single went to number 1 in the US and the UK. It was their biggest hit. Features backing vocals from the New Jersey Mass Choir, affiliated with the Gospel Music Workshop of America. They were in the video as well. Dreamgirls star Jennifer Holliday, and featured keyboard work by Thompson Twins frontman Tom Bailey. Lou Gramm, the lead singer, told a little story about this. He said Mick Jones, who is credited with writing, he was the keyboard synth backing vocals on this. Mick Jones's home was about 15 minutes from my home, so I would drive over to his house and we would work on that song. There'd be moments where it's just magic, and then we'd hit our head on something creative with it. We just couldn't get to the next point. And so we almost had to put the song away for a couple weeks and come back to it again. I felt we had worked our tails off to make that song what it is. When it was time to decide what the percentages were, I wrote down what I thought it should be, and he wrote down what he thought it should be. I think I wrote 65-35. 35 for me, 65 for him. And I opened the little piece of paper that he had thought the correct split was, and he wrote down 95-5. I was so stunned and crushed that he'd think I'd contributed next to nothing to that song. You know what I told him after 95-5? I said, 5, Mick? I said, you should just keep it all. And he did. He didn't say, no, Lou, please, let's work it out. I said 5% for me after all the work I did on this song. So yeah, it's part of the issue when songwriting credit comes in, right? I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Becca. All right, I Want to Know What Love Is. Interesting listening to it in this with headphones and just, really focusing on the song. I didn't even have the lyrics up because I don't need them up because I've heard this song so much, but a wonderfully constructed song, all of it, honestly, from Lou Gramm, the way he gets the emotion in the song at the right time to the choir at the end. It's a perfect thing. It's just an earworm and really a very well done song. And I made it really cover at the top, happy-ish love songs. Most love songs, I think, maybe that's a bold statement, but I think most love songs are sad, right? So this is going to be good to have happy ones. His heart had been broken. Now he found this girl, and he thought he could never find love again. But now he thinks he can find it with her. So it's a good story, and I can see it at number 10. Here. Next up, we have one of the two songs that I don't know. At least I don't think I know the second song. I know I don't know this one. "Bus Stop" by Hollies from the Bus Stop album in 1966. 5 in the UK. It was the Hollies' first US top 10 hit, reaching 5 on the Billboard charts. Number 1 in Canada. It was written by UK songwriter and future 10cc member Graham Goldman. In a 1976 interview, he said the idea for Bus Stop had come while he was riding home from work on a bus. The opening lines were written by his father, playwright Haim Goldman. Graham Goldman continued with the rest of the song in his bedroom, apart from the middle 8, which he finished while riding to work at a men's outfitters on the bus the next day. 30 years later, he elaborated on the song's beginnings. He said, "Bus Stop. I had this title, and I came home one day, and my dad said, I've started something on that bus stop idea you had, and I'm going to play it for you." He'd written "Bus Stop, Wet Day, She's There. I say, please share my umbrella." And it's like when you get a really great part of a lyric, or I also had this nice riff as well. And when you have such a great start to a song, it's kind of like the rest is easy. It's like finding your way onto a road, and when you get onto the right route, you just follow it. So that was a great quote. Okay, I thought the research on that sounded familiar. I've done a top 10 of the Hollies. I think this song was in it, but if it was, I've heard it once. Really good song. It sounds kind of Beatles-esque for the time. Basically he just shares the umbrella with this girl, and then they end up falling in love, right? It's because of the umbrella. That's where we get that at the bus stop. They just happen to be put together. But there is also a good quote I found here from Graham Nash, one of the Hollies founding members. He said, "I think Bus Stop has got to be my favorite because we recorded it in an hour and 15 minutes. It was a huge hit. We had a manager named Michael Cohen, and he says, I got this little Jewish kid who was down the street. He said he's a songwriter. Would you come and see him?" His name was Graham Goldman, and later became a very famous man in his own act. But at the time, he was only a 16-year-old kid. So we go in and we go, "Okay, so what do you got?" He goes, "Well, I got this one." And we went, okay, we'll definitely take that one. What else do you got? It was a truly an astounding thing to see this 6-year-old kid who was a fabulous songwriter. So I thought that was important to get the fact that this dude was 16 when he wrote this. So good tune. Well, next up, we have a band I'm quite familiar with. We have, I don't even know how many videos of the Beatles up. 60, 70, I don't know. We got And I Love Her from A Hard Day's Night in 1964, written primarily by Paul, credited to Paul and John, although John claimed he wrote the middle eight and Paul claimed he didn't. Paul said it was the first ballad he impressed himself with. Lennon called it Paul's first Yesterday. So Paul did give credit to George for composing the signature riff, saying it, quote, made a stunning difference to the song. All right, let's go. And I Love Her. Paul just professing his love for this girl. She's all his, and it's never going to go bad. But the guitar definitely does spice it up with George in there. It makes it sound quite different, especially for 1964, Hard Day's Night. A very underrated album in the Beatles catalog, but I digress. Keeping on the theme of the Beatles, number 7, Woman, John Lennon off the Double Fantasy album in 1980. Although we're going to be listening to the version, the ultimate version from the Give Me Some Truth album. It was the second single and first Lennon single issued after he was killed. Number 1 in the UK, number 2 in the US. In an interview with Rolling Stone magazine just 3 days before his murder, he said the song, quote, came about because one sunny afternoon in Bermuda, it suddenly hit me what women do for us. Not just what my Yoko does for me, although I was thinking in those personal terms, but any truth is universal. What dawned on me was everything I was taking for granted. Women really are the other half of the sky, as I whisper at the beginning of the song. It's a we or it ain't anything. Is that in that same interview, he said that Woman was his most Beatle-esque song on Double Fantasy, and that the track is a grown-up version of his Beatles song Girl, which is also fantastic. Woman, what a great song, man. You know, I heard this song a ton when I was a kid. I was only 9 years old when John was killed and the song was all over the radio. And I got sick of it, quite honest with you. And I mean, I listened to it. We did a Double Fantasy review a few years ago now. But otherwise, man, I haven't heard this song in years and years. But just to hear John's voice, man, just so pure at this point still. You know, he's taking all that time off. I mean, it just sounds fantastic. And it's just a great song. Just telling her, you know, look, my life's basically in your hands because it's so much I love you and thank you for all that you do. So just a really good song. Next up, we got Nights in White Satin from the Moody Blues from the album Days of Future Past, sort of, in 1967. Written and composed by Justin Hayward, is first featured as the segment The Night on the album Days of Future Past. First released as a single in 1967, it reached 19 in the UK and 103 in the US in 1968. But don't worry, boys and girls, it's going to change for them. When reissued in 1972, the single hit 2 in the US, making it the band's most successful single in the States. It enjoyed a recurring chart presence in the following decades. It charted again in the UK and Ireland in 1979, reaching 14 and 8 respectively. Charted again in 2010, reaching 51 in the UK. Justin wrote and composed the song at age 19 while touring in Belgium, and titled the song after a girlfriend gave him a gift of satin bed sheets. He said of the song, it was just another song I was writing, and I thought it was very powerful. It was a very personal song, and every note, every word in it means something to me, and I found that a lot of other people have felt that very same way about it. The melody of the song resembles that of Benny King's 1963 song, I Who Have Nothing, although the instrumentation makes it sound different. The London Festival Orchestra provided the orchestral accompaniment for the introduction, the final rendition of the chorus, and the final lament section, all of which were in the original album version. The orchestral sounds in the main body of the song were actually produced by Mike Pender's Mellotron keyboard device, which would come to define the Moody Blues sound. All right, let's check it out. Nights in White Satin, of course, the classic from the Moody Blues. This is where we get the Happyish love songs, because this one is more about an unrequited love, but he is telling her how much he loves her. So I could see where it can get into the happiness a little bit. Justin sounds fantastic on the lead vocals. I mean, you feel that gravity to this song. Ray Thomas on the flute, and of course, Pender on that Mellotron in the middle. John Lodge on bass, and then Graham Edge on drums. So just a really well done, grand song. I can't believe it didn't even hit in the US on an original release, but at least we figured it out. It hit number 2 in 72. All right, let's hit the top half of this list. Number 5, Wonderful Tonight, Eric Clapton from the Slow Hand album in 1977. He wrote it while waiting for Pattie Boyd to get to attend Paul and Linda McCartney's annual Buddy Holly party. So he's waiting for her to get ready. Remember, she'd previously been married to George Harrison, and Eric had been infatuated with her, and all the way back in 1970 had written Layla about her. So she took up with Eric after her and George divorced in like 1974, and they were still all friends, which still amazes me. Just says something for George as much as anything. Wonderful Tonight. Just a fantastic song. I talked about it at the beginning of it. Like the guitar work on there is just tremendous. But I mean, it's really good songwriting because it starts out he's waiting for her and maybe a little bit impatient, you know? Then she comes out and asks, "Do I look all right?" And I said, "Yes, you look wonderful tonight." Then they go to the party and everyone's kind of staring at her. And then she asked me, "Do you feel all right?" And I say, "Yes, I feel wonderful tonight." And then at the end, verse 3, he's been drinking. He gives her the keys and she helps me to bed. And then I tell her as I turn out the light, I say, "My darling, you were wonderful tonight." So I like the way it progresses through the song. It's a really good song. It's just a beautiful song. Well, next up at number 4, we have the Beach Boys, "Don't Worry Baby" from Shut Down Volume 2 in 1964. And this is a song I don't think I know. And maybe I will when I hear it because this song has a ton of acclaim. Written by Brian Wilson and Roger Christian, Wilson's lead vocal on the track is considered one of his defining performances, and he later referred to this song as perhaps the Beach Boys' finest record. It was issued in May 1964 as the B-side of "I Get Around" and charted separately at number 24. It came about from Wilson's obsession with the Ronettes' 1963 hit "Be My Baby." What a song. It has similar musical structure but different subject matter and production approach. He originally offered it to the Ramones, but their producer, Phil Spector, turned it down. He didn't like it, so Brian decided to record it himself. On the recording, all of the Beach Boys played their own instruments, which always didn't happen at that time. It's appeared in several critics' listings and rankings for songs, including Spin's 100 Greatest Singles of All Time, Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time, and Pitchfork's 200 Greatest Songs of the 1960s. But I really don't think I've heard it. How can that be? Yeah, I've never heard that song before. "Don't Worry Baby." Masterful harmonies on that one. It's a really good song. I mean, he's just saying that, he loves this girl a lot and he's hoping that she feels the same. He has that doubt, as oftentimes we do, about those that we love. Does this person really love me as much as I love them? She tells him, "Don't worry, baby." Then he has to go race somebody because his mouth kept running and he should have shut up. "Don't worry, baby. I'm there with you." So just a really good song. Obviously, the harmonies are next level. But yeah, man, a little hidden gem for me that I had not heard. Well, next up, number 3, we got "Maybe I'm Amazed" from Paul McCartney off his McCartney debut solo album in 1970, which Trey and I have a review up of. I don't think this album's real great, but I think this song is absolutely fantastic. Although the original recording has never been released as a single, a live performance by McCartney's later band Wings from the live album Wings Over America was released in 1977. Top 10 in the US, 28 in the UK on that live version. He wrote the song in 1969, just before the breakup of the Beatles. He credited his wife Linda with helping him get through the difficult time. And although most of the McCartney album was recorded in his home, this actually was not. It was recorded in EMI's number 2 studio at Abbey Road on the same day he recorded every night. He played all the instruments: guitars, bass, piano, organ, and drums. He declined to release the song as a single in 1970, although they did play it a lot worldwide. So he changed his tune, so to speak, no pun intended, for the live version. All right. "Maybe I'm Amazed." Just Paul McCartney at his greatest, man. This song is fantastic. Look, I'm real hot and cold on McCartney's solo stuff, mainly ice cold. And I love Paul. I love the Beatles, man. If you go watch this channel a lot, you know that. So it's not any shade at Paul. Just most of his solo stuff I could leave, man. But this song is absolutely fantastic. And I think it's because, he wrote it in 1969 at full peak powers, at full Beatles peak powers. And I think really talking about the breakup, the bridge, "Baby, I'm a man, maybe I'm a lonely man who's in the middle of something that he doesn't really understand. Maybe I'm a man and maybe you're the only woman who could ever help me. Baby, won't you help me understand?" So I think that probably is about the breakup, but I know we read a lot of stuff into the breakup. But vocally, oh man, when he takes it up a notch, you feel that emotion. Just a great, great song. We got 2 songs left. We got one of Becca's all-time faves, Mr. Jimi Hendrix, "Little Wing" from Axis, "Bold as Love" in 1967 in the UK, December 67 in the UK, January 68 in the US when it was released. It was actually written by Jimmy and is on Rolling Stone's greatest songs of all time. According to Jimmy, "Little Wing" came from an idea he had originally developed while playing in Greenwich Village when he was fronting his band Jimmy James and the Blue Flames in the summer of '66. He later explained that he was further inspired during the experience's performance at the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival, a very famous performance. "I got the idea when we were in Monterey, and I was just looking at everything around," Jimmy says. "So I figured that I'd take everything I see around and I put it in the form of a girl, maybe something like that, and call it Little Wing. And then it will just fly away. Everybody's really flying and they're really in a nice mood. Like the Police and everybody was really, really great out there. So I just took all those things and put them in one very, very small little matchbox, into a girl and then do it. was very simple, but I like it though. And so did everybody else, Mr. Hendrix. All right, Little Wing. Quick one there, man. Guitar work, I know it goes without saying, but you got to say it, man. It's just absolutely fantastic. The melody, this whole atmosphere and vibe of this just makes you happy, right? And I mean, that's when I'm sad, she comes to me with 1,000 smiles. She gives to me free. It's all right. She said, it's all right. Take anything you want from me. Anything, fly on. Little Wing. I mean, that's verse 2. There's only 2 verses, but Jimmy sounds great. What's the song Breathe at the start? Just a fun song. Could have been 4.5 minutes instead of 2.5. That'd be my only complaint. All right, I would do a drum roll, but you see it down below. Number 1 on Becca's top 10 happy-ish love songs. We got Something from the Beatles from Abbey Road in 1969. 2 weeks after the album's release, it was issued on a AA-sided single, coupled with Come Together, making it the first Harrison composition to become a Beatles A-side. It was the first time in the UK that the Beatles issued a single containing tracks already available on an album, right? They were already available. It was lessened because of this, because of double A side. In the US, it went to number 1, and also in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and West Germany. In the UK, it went to number 4. It's generally considered a love song to Patty, so we already had Wonderful Tonight at number 5. Patty Boyd has 20% of this countdown, right? Later on, George gave some other reasons or other things it was about, but it's probably about Patty. Because, well known that George couldn't get his singles on a lot of her songs, on a lot of the Beatles albums. He offered it to Joe Cocker first, but Joe Cocker turned it down. Drew praise from the other Beatles and from George Martin, with Lennon stating it was the best song on this album. He received the Novello Award in 1969. And by the late 70s, it had been covered by over 150 artists, making it the second most covered Beatles composition. Of course, behind Yesterday. But you probably already knew that. All right, Something, number 1, and a fitting number 1 on Becca's top 10 happy-ish love songs. And this one, it's so well written, and George is just telling her how much he loves her. He starts out Something, the way she moves, kind of steals that from James Taylor, who was signed to the Apple Corps label. And George later said, I was going to change it up some, but that's what came to me. I just left it there. Tracks me like no other lover. Something in the way she woos me. I don't want to leave her now. You know I believe in how. And then just about her smile. The guitar on there is so good. One of Harrison's best tracks, Trey and I ranked all Harrison-led Beatles stuff. So there's 28 of them. It came down to this, Here Comes the Sun, and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. You'll have to watch the video to see what we chose as number 1, but you could really move those 3 around any way you wanted to. So a great ending to the list. And that is going to bring me to my favorite tracks, which on this list is very difficult because Becca has some of my favorite artists of all time, but I can't choose them all. So honorable mention, let's go Woman by Lennon, Little Wing by Hendrix. Favorites, let's go Wonderful Tonight by Clapton, Don't Worry Baby by the Beach Boys, Maybe I'm Amazed by McCartney, and Something by the Beatles. So let me know what you think of this list. What other happy-ish love songs should we include on a list like this? Thanks again, Becca, and until next time, guys, I will see you.